All righty, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Want to make sure my sound levels are okay. All righty, testing, 1, 2, 3. All righty, good. All right, so what's going on, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another live hangout vid. You know what? This subject is very difficult to avoid at the moment, and for the most part, I've done a very good job of avoiding this topic. And you guys know what I'm referring to: Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Now, I know this has been a very tiresome, if not very, say, frustrating situation where you have two fighters who are at the top of their game. It's the most anticipated heavyweight fight that we've wanted to see in ages. Other than the last anticipated heavyweight fight, which was Tyson and Lewis, despite the fact that Mike Tyson was out of his prime, but that was one of the most anticipated heavyweight clashes that people wanted to see. You can argue Vladimir Klitschko and David Haye, but obviously, to me, in my opinion, it didn't really have that big of a stature like Tyson and Lewis, or Tyson Holyfield, obviously, or even Lewis versus Holyfield, those type of heavyweight clashes, whatnot. What's going on, Rasclad? Yeah, let me get into this real quickly. Now, I want to say one thing about this, and I noticed is that Wilder and Joshua has been going back and forth, like playing phone tag with each other for the last, I would say, 6.5 months, or even so, right? Maybe 6.5, maybe to 8 months, or maybe to a whole year. All right. This situation is like, okay, what's going on, Hamed? What's going on? And I got some interesting things I want to say about this. It's like one fighter is arguing, saying one thing of another. One fighter is contradicting each other. Management cannot be on the same page when it comes to these messaging, when it comes to their fighters. I would be fair, though. Wilder's team has been on point with their messaging, even though there are some contradictions to a degree on their end. But, as I pointed out in my last video, it's like Joshua and his team just can't seem to be on the same page. I don't know what's going on there. And the fact that I have to point out is that they haven't even signed a renewal deal with Matchroom, Joshua, that is. So what is going on with that? They were supposed to announce that a month ago, and nothing has happened. So they seem to be at odds on that situation. And that's why they cannot be on the same page when it comes to messaging, when it comes to Wilder, whatnot. So here, then lately, now all of a sudden, Eddie Hearn is, came out and said that he doesn't think Wilder is serious about the fight. He doesn't believe he's going to sign on to it. He believes he's deluded. Obviously, this is based off the interview that Wilder gave with Michelle Joy Phelps. While we're talking, I just want to give you guys some breaking news. Devin Alexander is going to be fighting Andre Berto on the undercard of Mikey Garcia and Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter. I mean, look, it's an intriguing matchup. Devin Alexander versus Mikey Garcia, but you know what? It's a it's a clash between two guys who are out of who are not at their best, obviously. So they're like way past it. So it's an intriguing matchup. It's an even matchup, but I think that Devin Alexander, I agree with you, Rasclad. I think Alexander's going to win that fight. So yeah, so that fight's been added onto the undercard of Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easter, which those guys are fighting for the unification lightweight title. So I think so. Hamed says that good fight. Devin probably on points. Berto shot. Yeah, they're both shot fighters, but as far as who's more shot, I mean, Berto's been knocked out. He's taking more punishment than Devin Alexander. So it's an evenly contested matchup, and I believe whoever wins that fight will be in striking distance of getting a good shot at either Thurman or Spence. And the reason why I say that is because Alexander is ranked highly by the IBF. So if he's able to pull this off against Andre Berto, he'll be a striking distance to get a shot at Errol Spence Jr. And Errol Spence is not due to another mandatory for a whole year. So, Ray Sean, what's going on, man? He says that, is it Charles Martin fighting on the undercard of Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter? Yeah, he is actually. He's fighting Adam Kornacki, who's actually rated number 10 ranked heavyweight in the world. Actually, I like that matchup because I don't think Wilder should be fighting Adam Kornacki. So I'm glad that's been ruled out to some degree, even though I wouldn't mind that matchup. But I think that Kornacki needs another fight or two before we can say, okay, he's far more legit to fight Wilder than he is right now. I mean, yeah, he's got some good, decent wins against Arthur Szpilka, whatnot. And I think he had another win against, who's the other heavyweight beat? But anyways, yeah, but Kornacki, if he beats Charles Martin, even though Charles Martin is not really, he's not really a good heavyweight paper champion, even though I was highly of Charles Martin in the beginning. But this is one of the situations I say, you know what, I was wrong about a fighter. But I expect Kornacki to easily handle Charles Martin. Well, I should say easily. I would say he should be able to handle him because Martin is not really that good technically. So he hasn't really fought anybody after the Joshua fight. He's fought a couple of cab drivers to get him back into the fray. And I don't think those fights were even televised. So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Rasclass says that Alexander, easy work for Thurman. That's not an exciting fight at all. Yeah, I mean, Thurman's going to run circles in Alexander. And Alexander may be still gained a southpaw, but he's definitely past his best. He's really washed up. Let's be realistic. He's very washed up, and that was proven in the Adrian Granados fight. But he definitely looked good against Victor Ortiz. Of course, Ortiz himself is pretty banged up in his shot or washed up, obviously, all three combined. But, still, though, that's Victor Ortiz. But needless to say, Keith Thurman is still, regardless of the injuries or not, but obviously he's not in the shape like a goddamn Victor Ortiz is. So let's be realistic. Hamed says that he walked the earth like a god. He's talking about Charles Martin. Oh man, that infamous line that he made on the Beyond the Gloves, defending his IBF title against Anthony Joshua. And that's another thing too. He disappointed me because he essentially wanted to sell that IBF belt to the highest bidder. I mean, ever since that fight, he kind of didn't care if he won or lost that fight. To me, he didn't really try. He got his biggest payday, and look what he did. He fucked off with some of his money. He got into all kind of shit. He didn't really care anymore. He was set. He got $7 million in the bank or $8 million or whatnot, bought himself a Bentley. He didn't really care. I know he's now back into the fray because obviously he needs that. He needs some extra money because that $7 million will dry up pretty quickly based off his level, his lavish spending. But yeah, Charles Martin, I mean, he could prove us wrong. If he does beat Adam Kornacki, hell, he'll be a striking distance to get a shot at Deontay Wilder. But if that happens, Wilder's going to knock this dude out badly. I mean, he'll probably do him far worse than Anthony Joshua did him, but it is what it is. Now, speaking of that, let me get into Deontay Wilder, okay? Let me get back to the Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder situation. We've sidetracked off the Devon Alexander and Andre Berto news. Look, they both are playing, they're playing phone tag with each other. This is the way I call it, okay? Because it's one, side accusing the other. One side said this guy's not serious, and the other side says that this guy's not serious. One side said we sent the contract, and the other guy says, well, we've already went over the contract. What is he talking about? We just had some couple of questions that need to be amended. A couple of questions that need to be rectified or need to be cleared up, and then we'll go ahead and sign. Now Hearns comes out, saying that, well, Wilder's not going to sign that contract. Now Wilder's coming out saying that I am going to sign it. So he's going to send his signed offer to Eddie Hearn tomorrow or 48 hours, whatever you want to call it. But what I find bizarre about this whole ordeal is that I've never seen a fight, especially a fight that's very anticipated like this, being negotiated publicly. I have to admit that. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. I mean, Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, an excellent example. I mean, that fight was very anticipated. A fight between a great small man, a super middleweight against a very great light heavyweight in Sergey Kovalev. So that fight was never discussed public. I mean, it was never negotiated publicly. They did things behind closed doors, even through Andre Ward's ordeal and inactivity, whatnot, and they made the deal. Okay, they never made an announcement that we're going to sign the contract, expect the signed offer sent to you tomorrow, this, that, and the third. We sent the contract over. I mean, some people are going to say we sent the contract over. That is going to be announced publicly, but I never seen someone says I'm going to announce I'm going to sign it and I'm going to send it to you. I mean, of course, again, there are a couple exceptions. Floyd Mayweather announced his signed offer to Manny Pacquiao. He even posted it on Twitter that he put his signature on the contract. So obviously, I mean, Wilder could be doing the same thing. Okay, fine. But to me, though, even so, though, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, that fight hasn't been negotiated to this extreme like Wilder and Joshua. Let's be real. I'd never seen anything like this before. But anyways, Wilder's going to send his signed offer in tomorrow, but I don't think the Joshua fight's going to happen right away. And here's the reason why I say that is because it's been 4 months since they both fought their opponents, right? Joshua fought Parker, and then Wilder fought a very, very, very good heavyweight clash against Luis Ortiz, right? So it's been nearly it's about 3 months now. It's almost going on to 4, coming up in July next week or so. So about 3 months to be exact. Now, why is it that they haven't announced their next opponent while they're negotiating through this whole ordeal between each other? Why have they announced it? Povetkin's fight was supposed to be announced 2 weeks ago. That hasn't happened. Wilder was supposed to announce his fight against Dominic Breazeale. That hasn't happened. So what's going on here? What's going on? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that Wilder is probably going to send a signed offer there, and the signed offer is the contract's going to stipulate that we're going to meet at a later date, but we're going to get an interim fight, 1 or 2 interim fights in between before we finally fight each other. Very similar to how Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward agreed to their terms. Very similar to how Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield agreed to their terms back in 1990, and so forth. So, very similar to how Shane Mosley agreed to his initial terms of fight Felix Trinidad if he got past Winky Wright. So even though Felix Trinidad was coming out of retirement, he didn't have to have an interim fight in between, but Shane Mosley had to get through his interim fight, which was against Winky, so he can get a shot at Felix Trinidad back in 2004, which a lot of people didn't know about until now that I exploited that, but it is what it is. So my thing is this: since Povetkin fight hasn't been announced yet, and the Breazeale fight hasn't been announced yet, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that maybe Deontay Wilder is going to take on Alexander Povetkin. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Ryan Bisky hasn't even pushed the purse bid yet. So something is going on there. Maybe they're getting something out of Wilder that they're not getting from Joshua. I don't know. Because this is almost, to me, is almost similar to what happened with the Ortiz situation. Let's go back to that, okay? When the WBA announced that Anthony Joshua must face Luis Ortiz, right? And he had certain days to come up with a deal. That was right after the IBF, a week after the IBF had called for the Joshua and Pulev fight, okay? Hearn was arguing that the IBF mandatory has to, part of the rotation process, the IBF mandatory need to be fulfilled before the WBA. Okay, but the fact is that was not the case. That was not necessarily true. Okay, Luis Ortiz management by the name of Jay Jimenez came out and said, well, wait a minute, that's not true. Hearn and his team, they signed a pledge, which Gilberto Mendoza even confirmed, by the way, the WBA president, that Joshua signed a deal, signed an agreement, a special agreement where he and Klitschko, whoever were going to be a victor out of that fight, must face Luis Ortiz before the IBF. The IBF was aware of that. They both signed the deal where that rotation goes, the WBA goes first before the IBF. Hearn comes out and said that, okay, I'm going to talk to the WBA. When he was called out on that, he said, I'm going to talk to the WBA and we're going to sort this out. So the WBA had go ahead and granted Hearn's wishes. They decided, okay, we'll let the IBF mandatory proceed, and then the WBA. So that probably pissed off Ortiz and his team. They're like, no, forget it. We're not going to do this. So they approached the Wilder fight, and they got that fight signed. And no one expected the Wilder-Ortiz fight to go down like that. No one expected that. So this could be a possible scenario in the same situation where Joshua and his team has not yet signed a deal to fight Anderson Povetkin, although they said they have. I could be wrong. I'm just saying that this is a possibility. Just a similar situation would happen with Ortiz and Wilder. I mean, Ortiz and AJ. They could have said, you know what? Joshua's, you know, they could have made a deal where, okay, Deontay, if you want to fight with Joshua, you got to fight Povetkin. That's a possibility. If Deontay Wilder said, I would like to fight Povetkin, this, you know, even though before he got caught with the second PED. I know they have that trial situation in New York, but eventually I expect that to be cleared up, to be honest with you. I think that they may come to terms on that, so I expect that to happen. I'm just theorizing. I'm looking at this scenario very similar to what happened with AJ and Ortiz. I'm just, you know, call me crazy, but I believe it, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Let me see here. Hamed said this is getting boring. It probably will be AJ versus Povetkin. Yeah, I'm not ruling that out, Hamed, but I'm thinking that it more likely I could see Wilder versus Povetkin based off this whole situation because both fighters haven't even announced their fights yet. So what's going on there? We know they're not going to fight each other next. Hopefully I'm wrong. But the fact is that if they're going to fight, we all more likely predict it's going to happen next year. It's not going to happen right away. So I believe there's going to be an interim fight, 1 or 2 interim fights in between for the both fighters. And I believe, and I honestly believe this, I think Wilder's going to be fighting Povetkin. I think this is what's going to happen. I just have a feeling that may happen. I have a feeling. AJ and Wilder are probably friends. Rosklat, all this makes a $1 million fight worth $50 million. This is a shit fight compared to the past super fights at heavyweight. Well, I'm not sure about that, Rosklat. We don't know that for sure because on paper, it's a damn great heavyweight clash. I mean, you got two destructive punchers at heavyweight fighting each other. They're undefeated. They're in their prime. So we don't know. I mean, on paper, it looks devastating. It looks very good, but we'll see if it translates in the ring. We'll see. Hamed says, good point, though. I heard this could be a Wilder Povetkin. I mean, yeah, I have a feeling, man. I just have a feeling this could be the case. Raska said, I want to see AJ. I want to see Ortiz versus AJ. Hey, you know what, Raska? I would love to see that too. But let's be honest, though. AJ's not going to take that fight. They ducked that fight. And let me get into that because when Ortiz was given the blessings by the WBA to go ahead and take the Wilder fight, right, on the WBC side, AJ and his promoter, Eddie Hearn, did not like that at all. They got upset with the WBA for allowing that Ortiz to go ahead and proceed with that fight. And not only that, and maintain his mandatory status. They wanted him out of the way as the mandatory challenger. They did not want him to be mandatory only because he was fighting Wilder. I know some people are going to say, well, that's a principle. But the fact is that we've had many fighters who fought other fighters who weren't mandatory as other champions, but still can't maintain their mandatory status. So why is it that, or, you know, I mean, that right there was a political maneuver to try to get him out the way. And I do not agree why they did that. I just did not agree. They knew he was a mandatory. They knew they had to take care of him, but they wanted him out the way only because he was fighting Wilder. I did not like that at all, to be honest with you. And they were very dismissive of him before too, because they even questioned why Wilder took that fight. Let's be real. They questioned him. It's like, why are you taking that fight? That's a dangerous fight. So that right there, to me, shows that they had no intentions of fighting Ortiz when they even questioned why Wilder would even agree to fight Luis Ortiz. That's what they said, you know? So I'm never going to, you know, I like AJ and I like Eddie Hearn, but to me, I can't give them a pass for what they did and why they, you can say the word, they what's the word I'm looking for? They swerved him. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. They swerved Luis Ortiz. That's what happened. Like it or not, man, that's exactly what happened. And I never forgave him for that, you know? So anyways, let's see. JR6, what's going on, man? He says, this is the first live stream I've been on where the streamer isn't being biased to either AJ or Wilder. I'm getting very fed up with the toxic community just abusing one fighter. It's getting fucking more. Hey, you know what? Thanks, man. Thanks a lot, JR. I really appreciate that. You know, I try to be fair with both fighters. I like Wilder because I'm a Wilder fan. And I like AJ too. I like both fighters. And I try to be fair with both. If they're going to do some bullshit, particularly with Wilder, I'm going to call it out. And I have criticized Wilder. Look at my videos. I've criticized him. I say, look, man, you know, I'm not going to repeat it, but my videos are up when I criticized him. So, you know, AJ, I rarely criticize, but based off what's going on with this negotiation, how the way he swerved Luis Ortiz or his promoter, I should say, yeah, I didn't like that at all. Eric Woods, what's going on, man? What up, Dan the man? AJ's on that juice with that dirty power. He's saying he needs more than 8 weeks to train in the UK. He's protecting. I mean, Joshua, we understand we don't need no explanation. You know what, man? I wouldn't go on too far to accuse him of being on PEDs or anything like that. Here's the way I look at it. We could all speculate whether you're on PEDs or not. I mean, we could speculate many fighters on PEDs, including Wilder. But until they get caught, that's when we're going to hold them accountable. So I wouldn't want to go that far to accuse AJ of PEDs, especially if he's passing all his drug tests. So that's that's your spiel. JR says, oh, never mind. Here they come. No. It's okay, JR. Don't worry, man. You're going to have ones are off. I mean, look, Derek is cool. Derek Woods is cool with me. We have no problem. Of course, he's going to have his views, but I don't always have to agree with him. So we all agree to disagree, brother. Let me see. Hamed says, if Wilder fights Povetkin, then AJ will lose fans' respect. You know what? He may get a little flack for that. But to be honest with you, I don't mind him not fighting Povetkin because I'd rather have Wilder fight Povetkin because I think that's a fight that's long overdue. That's a fight that people wanted to see more so than AJ versus Povetkin, to be honest with you. And not saying that nobody wants to see AJ fight Povetkin, but I think the Wilder-Povetkin fight is more appealing on paper than it is AJ versus Povetkin, to be honest with you. I really believe that. I mean, like I said, they're both good fights, but to me, I think Wilder versus Povetkin is more exciting. I believe that. I really do. And I think that's a fight that's long overdue. I think that's a fight that needs to be made. And I think that's probably what's going to happen based off what's going on and what I've been observing. Because both fighters, again, I have to repeat myself, both fighters have not announced their next fights yet. The Povetkin first bid was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago. That didn't happen. There's no indications they signed a deal yet. And I could be wrong, but to me, I think, so given that Wilder is going to sign his signed agreement over to AJ and his team tomorrow, or 40 hours, whatever the case may be, I have a feeling that, again, there's going to be an interim fight, 1 or 2 interim fights in between each other. They're not going to fight right away. I think that Wilder is going to be fighting Povetkin. I think that's what's going to happen. Let me see. Roscott says Wilder's going to KO Povetkin. Yeah, I think he's going to KO him. But the question is, where is this fight going to happen if this was going to happen? Is it going to happen in Russia? Because Povetkin's not a mandatory, so Wilder's just giving him a voluntary shot. So if that's the case, then that fight's going to be in the U.S. More than likely, if that's the case. Let me see. Hey, Black Latin Seas, I really appreciate the love, man. Yeah, if you guys do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up in the video section, the description section. I really appreciate it. I really do. Man says, if Wilder fights Povetkin, then AJ will fight neither. My point was, oh, okay. I hear you, man. I hear you. My question is, why is AJ ducking WBC testing? You know what? Here's the thing. I want to respond to that because I know the WBC, because since he's a champion with the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO, he's not required to partake in the clean boxing program. However, the WBA has a program that models the clean boxing program, which is called the fair boxing program. Okay, the FBP. Now, the only difference between the WBA's fair boxing program and the WBC's clean boxing program is that the WBC releases the names of the participants who partake in this program. The WBA hasn't done that, and I haven't seen a list of the fighters that have enrolled in the WBA fair boxing program. So that's where I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. They have initiated this last year or two, I believe, but we haven't seen a list because the WBC, they distribute a list and they tell you who's registered, who's not registered. But the WBA hasn't done that. So I find that a bit, I'm not going to call it shady, but I find that very strange. So I think that's something we need to press the WBA on. Is that, okay, you need to release the names of the people who are the participant of the fair boxing program. Because that's where AJ is supposed to be partaking, the random style drug testing. So so I'm going to I'm going to just reserve my thoughts on that until we get further information on the fair boxing program where AJ is partaking. So that he's participating, I should say. Ross Clot to Black Latin Season said, well, actually, Black Latin Season, Ross Clot, a win over both Ortiz and Povetkin would give him a better resume than AJ. Oh, man. You know what? I know Ross Clot agrees, but I don't know, man. I definitely believe it's going to come close, but here's the thing, that Klitschko win will still be better because here's the thing. Klitschko did beat Povetkin. All right. Even though that was a hook by crook win, that was a very disgraceful performance, but a win's a win. Okay. It's done with. That fight happened 5 years ago. Klitschko is a Hall of Famer. Now, as far as Povetkin is concerned, is he a Hall of Famer? He does have the best resume as compared to all the other middleweights of today, even better than AJ and Wilder. But I don't know, man. I still believe that AJ may still have a slight advantage over Wilder. To me, that's just my opinion. I mean, that's just my opinion. I really believe it. But that's a good debate, though. If people believe that if Wilder does beat Povetkin and Ortiz, then, that there could be some bit of an argument to be made there. That could be. But then again, will Povetkin be looked upon as a Hall of Famer compared to Klitschko? That's the question. I don't know. To me, I don't think so. I think Povetkin may fall a little short on Hall of Fame status. I really believe he'll fall short. That's just my opinion. It'd still be a great win for a Wilder if he were to fight him and beat him. That'd be a great win, or even for AJ. But I'd rather see Wilder fight Povetkin than AJ fight Povetkin. I really rather see that. Hamed says that, can you see Fury versus Wilder? Deontay did say he wants Fury if no AJ. I could see that fight, Hamed, but I don't see it happening right away because Tyson Fury needs about 4 more fights before he fights Deontay Wilder. Let's be realistic. He's not in the best shape. He looks a lot slower than did before, footwork-wise, obviously, because of the excess weight that he's carried. But I think he could. I don't know. It could happen, but I don't think. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Tyson Fury would beat Deontay Wilder, given the fact all the 3-year layoff. He's abused his body. He's had a lot of substance abuse. He's damaged it. He's gained too much weight. I mean, that takes a toll on a guy's prime in their career. So I just don't see Fury beating Wilder. He might be competitive, yes, but I just don't see it. I really don't see it. JR6 says in the UK, people only people want to see AJ fight Wilder, White, Fury, to be honest. Well, I mean, let's be fair. They love to see AJ. Let's be fair to the UK fans. There are some very good fans. Majority of them are. And they want to see AJ fight the best. And he is doing that. But again, there was a one-off with Luis Ortiz that he wasn't keen on fighting. So that right there, I'm not giving him a pass on. Now, as far as Povetkin is concerned, if there was an agreement where he says, okay, you fight Povetkin, you get my mandatory out of the way, then you get a shot at me. Even though some people may not like that, but me personally, I'm okay with that because I want Wilder to fight Povetkin. I want him to beat Povetkin. I think that would be another great win on Wilder's resume where you can say, you know what? The gap between Wilder and AJ's resume has got closer now. It's got closer. If he were to take on the Povetkin fight, then Wilder takes on Brazil. So that would be, it beats Brazil. That, then you could argue, okay, Deontay Wilder's resume has gotten a little better now. if he beats those two men, Povetkin and Brazil. So very good heavyweight matchups. Let's see. C says, "Come on, Dan. Vlad was coming off a loss. Come on, bro. Yeah, he was coming off a loss. I know that, man. I know that. Trust me, I know. It was a 2-year layoff. Klitschko was washed up. I mean, I know that, but it's still a great win either way. That was a Hall of Famer. That was the best Vladimir Klitschko that we have seen in years, okay? That was his best performance, to tell you the truth, out of his entire career. And Vladimir, for the most part, has been criticized for his, for his style of fighting over the years, given the fact that his, legal, you could say borderline illegal tactics in fights, whatnot. And he's got away with it for years, and his fighting style is just too extra cautious because the man doesn't like to get hit. He's too extra cautious, But he actually fought with a lot of heart, and he fought like this was the last fight of his life, which it was. And he fought like, you know what, I'm not going to go out like a punk. And that's the first time we ever seen Vladimir Klitschko fought like a real champion, So AJ definitely needs to get props for that win because he almost got knocked out in that fight. He found the heart, and he found the wherewithal and the energy to come back and beat an all-time great in Vladimir Klitschko, and a Hall of Famer, no doubt about that. And even though AJ was slightly favored to win that fight, but you still got to give him credit for coming back and beating him and stopping a Hall of Famer. So, yeah, that's why I have to give, even if Wilder does beat Povetkin and beats Brazil, AJ will still have the slight edge on the resume compartment because of that Klitschko win. So, I'm just being honest, man. I like Deontay Wilder, but let's be real. I'm just calling it as it is. Rasclass says that the Vlad win was big. I can't argue that. Yeah, it was, man. It was a big win. AJ ain't about the billions. Wilder offered him a blazing heart, a head start. Well, he did. I mean, it just baffles me why a man turns down a $50 million deal. Plus, he gets a 50-50 revenue split, if the fight generates over $50 million. So gross revenue. So that right there is bizarre. He asked for it. It was presented to him. The funds were verified. It was a legit offer, and then he turns it down. I mean, obviously that was a management call. I don't think he made that decision by himself. I think that was a management call. They thought him out of that deal, and that's probably why he's at odds with Hearn in Matchroom, because he feels that he should. I really think that AJ's probably on the brink of deciding what he should do here, whether he should sign with Matchroom for another 3 years, or he's now thinking about, you know what, I got enough resources, I got enough money now where I can branch off and do my own thing. I could take my own career, I make my own decisions, and I could promote my own cards because he's got enough money to do that. He does. And as I mentioned in my prior video, my prior hangout, I think that Hearn or both of the Hearns are afraid of losing their cash cow, and that's why it's taking so long for them to announce a deal for him to re-sign with Matchroom. Again, this is over a month ago, and he hasn't re-signed that deal. So that is bizarre to me. And in fact, let me get a couple guys on here. I'm going to chop it up real quickly before I get off here. Jump in, people. Let's chop it up quickly. Let's see. Jump in, people. Let's see. Let me get Charlie here. All right, I sent the link to the chat, so let's see if anybody's going to go again. But yeah, so I'm just thinking, man. I really believe that Wilder Povetkin may go down. I think that fight's going to be announced. I really have a gut feeling that's going to happen, based off what I'm seeing. I really believe that, and based off that, I think that Wilder is going to beat Povetkin. I mean, what do you guys? I mean, I think a lot of people's picking Wilder beat Povetkin because Wildcard says Povetkin is washed up. Ahmed says that a Povetkin win in 2013 to 16 would have been better now. Not now that he's 37, got dropped heavily by Price, and he looked old. Yeah, that's a good point, Ahmed. But still, though, Povetkin is still a dangerous fighter either way. Yeah, minus the PEDs, but he's still a formidable opponent. We cannot dismiss that, And Wilder did say that he still wants to fight the guy. So let's see, you know. Um, Gangsta says that a 40-year-old will never be at their best in any sport. No, they won't. They won't. They're definitely declined over the years, but they can still fight at a top level. I mean, like Bernard Hopkins at 40 really fought at a top level, even though he he started to lose some of his reflexes, whatnot. But he still fought like he was somewhat of in his prime still. But we all knew he was kind of sliding a little bit at age of 40. But he was still hanging there with those young guns like Jermaine Taylor and the Pascals. 5 years later, the Kelly Pavliks and the Wiki Wrights, whatnot. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that, Gangster. AJ made Vlad look better than he should have made him look. You know what? Someone brought that to my attention, the Gangster, and I think what it is that maybe AJ had to make Vlad expose some of AJ's flaws in that fight, which he did. I mean, AJ was still squared up. He wasn't moving his feet. He wasn't really moving his head a little bit. Other than the knockdown, I'll give AJ some credit. He was moving his head when he got knocked out. He was showing some urgency, trying to gather his senses after that hard knockdown that he took that 5th round, that right by Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, because I thought he was going to get knocked out. To be honest with you, I was honestly nervous, and I was like, no, we cannot have another Vladimir Klitschko win, because we just had to endure. We had to live through the horrible times of the heavyweight division when the Klitschko's were reigning. And no disrespect to the Klitschko's, they were great fighters. I mean, but Kitali was obviously, to me, in my opinion, was a better fighter than Vlad. But I mean, as far as more accomplished wise, Vlad was obviously a more accomplished fighter. But still, though, I just think that AJ win would have been much better for the heavyweight division than a Vlad win, and I proved it to be right. And I think it is. And it's a shot in the arm. We get to see matchups that we get to see now. Champions are fighting each other. The only champions now that need to fight each other is Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Now that's been hit with a roadblock, but potentially that could be broken in the next couple of days. But we'll see. I don't know, Dan. Vlad was 47 years old coming off a loss. No, he wasn't 47. He was 41 or 40 years old coming off a loss. He looked terrible. Then Vlad was on a 2-year layoff retirement. Yeah, I mean, Styles made fights. I mean, Tyson Fury at his prime at that time made everyone look bad. He had a very awkward and tricky style where he could fight southpaw, he could fight orthodox. I mean, he gives you weird angles. It's hard to fight a guy like that. And Tyson Fury had a longer reach. He had a very quick jab. He had quick hands. He moved his head a lot. So Vlad was just dealing with a guy he just couldn't figure out. So that's how he looked bad. And, and Tyson Fury humiliated the guy in his backyard. So Styles make fights, and AJ doesn't move. Well, now he may move better than Fury. But at that time, AJ wasn't as quick, as elusive as what's his name? As Tyson Fury. Because AJ would gladly trade with you. That's the difference between both of the clash of styles. So, yeah. Gangster, Duhaupas exposed Wilder. Povetkin would finish Wilder. Povetkin is basically an upgrade for Duhaupas. Similar style, but better version in every department. No, Povetkin is more of a their style's not the same because Duhaupas he's a guy who uses his reach a lot. He uses his height, he uses his jab. He kind of leads with his left, leads with his jab. He comes with his jab that come with the lead right. Povetkin's more of a body puncher. He's more of a pressure style fighter where he's going to dig you to the body, then he's going to work his way upstairs to break you down. So that's what he does. He breaks you down systematically, kind of like how Tyson used to do it. Of course, Povetkin was trained by Teddy Atlas, so or co-trained by Teddy Atlas along with Custom Models. So we all know. So you get my drift. But does Povetkin have a chance to beat Wilder? Absolutely, I believe he does. But to me, given off he's no longer on that quote unquote the performance enhancement drugs, I'm not sure that's going to be. He may have be much effective for Wilder. I mean, I don't know. He's still a dangerous fight. I think Wilder's can prevail, and I think Wilder's going to get him out of there. I really believe it. So we'll see. But the one thing about Povetkin that he cannot do, and he has a tendency of doing this a lot, is that he lunges in all the time, obviously because he's a short heavyweight. But lunging in against Deontay Wilder is extremely dangerous because you're giving Wilder a chance to to get back in range and try to catch you with that right. And when he catches you, when you lunge in at him, you're going to go to sleep. And that's what happened to Arthur Spilka. And Povetkin was right there in the front row watching that fight. And he saw from firsthand, when you try to lunge at Deontay Wilder, that's what you're going to pay. And that's suicide. So Povetkin better not do that. You better not lunge in against Deontay Wilder because you're going to get caught, and that is dangerous. Don't do that. Casey says styles make fights. Povetkin is all wrong for Wilder. I mean, they both have a clash of styles, but again, lunging in against Wilder is very, very dangerous. I'm just being honest. That's dangerous and that's suicide. All right, JRB, peace out, man. I know you're in the UK, but yeah, come back sometimes, brother. Really appreciate you for having you here. Ahmed says, yeah, I need to go to sleep too. It's almost 5 a.m. Hopefully I'll come on in the future in the early stream. Yeah, no problem, Ahmed. Take care, man. We'll catch up on some later time. I'll talk to you about that debate that I'm going to set up. Black Lad sees that Vitaly was tougher, but Vlad was more skilled, especially after Emmanuel Stewart stepped in. Yeah, we both agreed on that. Vlad had more talent than Vitaly, but as far as being a greater fighter who had more heart, the warrior spirit, I would say Vitaly, because Vitaly was a guy who would fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. He fight anybody. I mean, Vlad fought a lot of guys too, but Vitaly would fight you. Okay, he wasn't a guy who was going to kind of find a way to like hold, he wouldn't find illegal ways to beat you. I mean, I know it's a fight game. People are going to use illegal tactics, but I hate to say it, Vladimir was just very, very, he was just too cautious sometimes. Sometimes he felt he was very afraid when he was in trouble against against fighters who was going to pressure him. I mean, Vitaly will fight you off. He didn't care who you are. He was going to fight you off. He's going to fight your ass off until he get to you. And that's what he did to Corey Sanders, God rest his soul. That's what he did to the likes of Samuel Peter. I mean, it's just like he'll do that. Even guys like Lennox Lewis, trying to fight off Lennox Lewis and his pressure, in that fight. So, yeah, I mean, Vitaly to me had more of the fighter spirit than Vlad, in my opinion. I think he did. And Vlad was more talented, and he was, he accomplished more than Vitaly. But in my opinion, Vitaly just had more of the fighter spirit. That's just my opinion. Both great fighters, both great dominant heavyweights, no question about it. Rasclass says, I can't really say that Vitaly is better because Bird would have got KO'd by Vlad. Actually, I think Vlad actually beat Chris Bird. Let me take a look at that. I think he fought Chris Bird and he beat him. I think he stopped him. Let me take a look. Chris Bird. Yeah, Vlad stopped Chris Bird for the IBF title. He knocked him out in the 7th round. He stopped him. I know he did something that he did something that his brother Vitaly couldn't do. So yeah. Let's see. Povetkin almost got KO'd by David Price. What's up, Gates? Yeah, he did. He almost got knocked out. Let's not forget it. Even though David Price is shitty, but he does punch fucking hard as a heavyweight. He's one of the biggest punchers, one of the biggest punching heavyweights in the division right now. That's the truth. What's up, Texan? He says that the headline though, is this for real? No, it's just me speculating, Texan. I'm just pointing out the hypotheticals and the scenarios this fight could happen because of what's going on with AJ and Wilder based off the situation, because AJ was supposed to announce the Povetkin fight a couple weeks ago, and that hasn't happened. And there's no signs of them even signing a deal with the Povetkin team yet to make that fight. Wilder, on the other hand, hasn't even announced his fight with Dominic Brazil yet. There hasn't been no signs of that agreement being signed. But yet, all we know is that AJ and Wilder has been negotiating for the last, 3-4 months now. So, or 5 months or so. So Wilder is now saying that he's prepared to send his signed offer to AJ. But in my opinion, that's not going to be a fight that's going to happen right away. I could be wrong. But I have a feeling that they are going to decide an agreement what they're going to get 1 or 2 interim fights in between before they meet in a future date. And I have a feeling that one of those opponents that Wilder's going to face in the interim fights is Alexander Povetkin. I really believe that. I really believe that's what's going to happen, very similar to the Ortiz situation, even though they never agreed that Wilder should fight Ortiz. It's just that when I point out the parallels is that AJ and his team, weren't going to fight Ortiz as far as the IBF situation. I get all that. But instead of waiting on AJ, Ortiz went over there and tried to make the fight with Wilder. That fight got made, something we didn't expect to happen. It got made. So I really believe that this situation, to some similarities, Povetkin is going to make a fight with Deontay Wilder. I believe that's what's going to happen. I just have a feeling. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this as being concrete. I'm just saying this could happen based off the scenarios that I'm looking at right here. I really believe that. I really believe that. So that's what I'm saying, Povetkin. I'm not going to say Povetkin. That's what I'm saying, Texas. Gangsta says Povetkin can do everything the Whoppers did against Wilder and some more. Yeah, but we'll see, though. We'll see. Yeah, spell check needs. I spell check. I meant to type improve, man. It's all good, man. It's all good. And he got knocked down. Gaines, PP. Let's see. Ross Clapp, Black Lad Season Ross Clapp. They also claimed that Vitaly was beating Lennox Lewis. But if you watch that fight, you can see the punishment Vitaly began to take in the last 2 rounds. Well, Latin season, Vitaly actually won 4 of those 6 rounds before the stoppage. I did have him up on the cards, but he did take punishment in the between. I would say the second on to the 4th and 5th round. Obviously, he was taking so much punishment. You could say one of those rounds was a swing round that I thought Vitaly nicked it, but you could say Lennox won it. Or you could say it was a draw before the stoppage. Some people could argue it was a draw, but the judges had Vitaly up before the stoppage. But even before the stoppage, I don't think that fight was going to go any longer because I was still a long way to go for Vitaly to even finish that fight. And I don't think his fighting spirit would have said, okay, I'm going to finish this fight because he took a hell of a lot of criticism. I mean, a ferocious amount of criticism for quitting against Chris Bird. And let's face it, he did quit against Chris Bird. He took a lot of flack for quitting that fight. And he said to himself that I need to redeem myself against Lennox Lewis. I'll take the fight on 2 week notice. He did. He showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of grit. And even in that loss, Vitaly Klitschko's career was rejuvenated. He was no longer going to be called a coward. He's no longer going to be called a punk because a lot of people called him a disgrace of a heavyweight after quitting against Chris Bird. And he redeemed himself after that fight against Lennox. Even though he lost and he took a beating, but he didn't quit. He didn't want to give up. He fought like this was the last fight that he ever had, and he did it. So, you got to give him props for that. Let me see. Gangsta says Price knocked Povetkin off balance, so Povetkin wasn't even stunned. Well, I think he was stunned a bit because he had some bit of urgency after he got clipped by David Price with that left hook. So he had some urgency because when you get stunned, then your urgency. Then you have some sense of urgency as a fighter to try to get rid of your opponent. So that's the way I see it. What else we got here? Povetkin, let me see what else we got here. The Whoppers walk through Wilder. I have no doubt that Povetkin could take Wilder's chances as well. Well, we'll see. We'll see. And let's not get it. Let's be real. The Whoppers, yeah, he's got a hell of a chin, but that Povetkin that knocked out the Whoppers was on PEDs. Okay. He was juiced up for that fight. And ever since he's been taking random style drug testing, it hasn't been on those PEDs. Povetkin's power hasn't been quite the same. So we have to take that into account. Even though he's still a formidable opponent, but we got to still take that into account. Let's see. Gaze PP says he's lucky he got hurt in the quarter. Gangsta says Wilder's power was overrated. Otherwise, he would have dropped the Whoppers. Povetkin put that same dude to sleep. Yeah, as I mentioned, Povetkin was on PEDs when he knocked out the Whoppers. The Whoppers has been hit harder by most hard punching fighters. I mean, he was hit by Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Baby Miller is a big puncher, and he took all his shots. It took him to the distance. And what else? I mean, Wilder I don't want to say Wilder's power is overrated. If you believe his power is overrated, ask Luis Ortiz. I mean, ask Arthur Spilka. Ask Berbe Savern. I mean, ask those guys. I mean, he put all those guys to sleep. Okay? So I would call that overrated because there's a lot of guys who've been cautious about that right hand. Even Luis Ortiz, when he was getting hit by that right hand, he was his pupils was were lit up like he saw a ghost when he's feeling that power. So yeah, the Texas says, I don't know. I could see Povetkin get caught with something early, something nasty. He's getting up in age though. Yeah, I mean, you got to take that into account as well. But the thing I mentioned earlier is that Povetkin, it lunges in a lot. And Wilder, that's proven to be suicide if you're going to do that to Deontay Wilder because you give him a perfect chance to time you with that right hand when you come in like that. Because Arthur Spilka tried that with Wilder, and he got caught, and he got his ass put to sleep, and he was let out to a stretcher out of the ring because of that. So that's suicidal for Povetkin to try to lunge in at Wilder. He's playing right into his trap when he does that. So I would not lunge in on Wilder if I'm Povetkin. I'm going to be honest. I would not lunge in at him. I would not do it. So let me see. And Vitaly is literally on the level of Kubrat Pulev. He's no better. Vlad would have KO'd Vitaly the same way he KO'd Pulev. Well, that's a what if situation against her. I mean, let's be real. Vitaly is a much better fighter than Kubrat Pulev. Much better fighter. Much greater fighter than Kubrat Pulev. So I don't know about that, man. Maybe skill-wise, perhaps probably on the same level, but not on the greatness level. No way. No way. I mean, Vitaly is a far times light years greater than Kubrat Pulev. Far light years greater. Let's see. Yang says that Povetkin's chin won't hold up. Yeah, we'll see, though. We'll see. It was a premature stoppage against Duhaupas. No, I don't call that premature because Duhaupas was taking the beating, and I think that fight should have been stopped maybe a couple rounds before the stoppage. To be honest with you, he took a beating, even though he was still fighting on, but he was taking the beating, and the referee stopped it where it needed to be stopped because he was getting beaten up. So he had no chance to win that fight anyway. So it was a good stoppage. Black Last Season's bullshit, bro. Wilder has the biggest punch in boxing. He's proved to have KO power on both hands. Yeah, that's true. Yo, Dan the Man, why is AJ putting all the roadblocks in front of Wilder? AJ last two performances were not impressive. Yeah, I mean, they weren't impressive. You know what, Derek? I don't like the fact that AJ's putting all these roadblocks in front of Wilder. But, you know, what it is that when you're the A side, you can do things like that. It's a fucked up situation, but it is what it is, man. You know, if Wilder's willing to go through those roadblocks, and so be it. But the fact is that I agree with you that, you know, it's kind of discouraging to see AJ do that. But he is the A side. He does have the resume. He does have the titles. He does have the drawing power. So he can do that. I mean, Floyd did that to a lot of fighters. Put up roadblocks and get before they could get a shot at him. I mean, didn't Ray Leonard put up roadblocks for Marvin Hagler? I mean, a lot of fighters have done that over the years. So, I mean, I don't like it, but it is what it is. When you're in that position as being the cash cow, Canelo's putting up roadblocks for Triple G. Now Triple G's trying to put up roadblocks for other fighters to get a shot at him, which I don't know why, but it is what it is. So a lot of fighters are doing that, you know? So I don't know. I mean, it's sad, but it is what it is. Let me see. Wilder's power is the only right hand. No, yeah, so he got power on that left hand because he put Ortiz down with the left jab, which was not ruled a knockdown in the second round. You need to take a look at that. And Ortiz was kind of stunned with that left jab, with that stiff jab that was put in his face. He was kind of stunned with that. And that left jab that Wilder was putting in Ortiz's face was rocking his head back. So there's some snap in that left hand too. There's a snap in there. And he put Ortiz down with the left hook too in the 10th round. So you have to look at that. Let's see. What else we got here? They were cuffing shots, landing with the wrist, forearms, etc., all illegal, and both Severn and Ortiz were shot at that time. They were begging to get knocked out against any prior decent heavyweight. I don't know about that, gangster. Well, Severn, I mean, first of all, Wilder beat Severn the first fight. He humiliated him and knocked him out in the second fight, which we expected a knockout, but not that early, not in the first round, okay? As far as Ortiz, nobody said Ortiz was shot. A lot of people wanted Wilder to fight Ortiz. A lot of people felt that Wilder was ducking Ortiz, which I felt he was ducking him at initially, which 3 years ago he did, but Wilder took him on, and nobody thought he was going to make that fight, and he did. And he knocked him out, okay? And I wouldn't say he was shot, okay? Ortiz, yeah, he's had some issues getting fights, all, whatnot, because nobody wanted to fight him, including Anthony Joshua didn't want to fight him, so Wilder gave him a shot. Until this day, after Wilder beats Ortiz, people still don't want to fight him. So it's criminal what's going on, what's being done to Luis Ortiz. All right, so I would say Ortiz was shot, man. That Ortiz was still at the top of his game, okay? He hurt Wilder. He rocked him. He hurt him badly in the 7th round. As far as those wrists and forearms, illegal shots, no. Wilder was aiming for the head, okay? Ortiz was ducking. Yes, those shots are looking like they were cuffing. They look like they were clubbing shots, okay? And plus, Wilder has long-ass arms when he's trying to reach for your head. Okay? So, yeah. You said that both were 40. Of course they were shot. No. Well, first of all, gangster, if you're going to say that they were shot, then Vladimir Klitschko is shot too, right? Because AJ fought Klitschko 40 years old, coming off a 2-year loss. So if you're not going to give Wilder credit for that win against Ortiz or Severn was actually 37, or 37, whatnot, or 38. Actually 37, I believe. We're 37, 38. Well, if they were shot, then you cannot give AJ no credit for beating Vladimir. Or you can't even give him credit for beating Takam, because Takam is up in age too. He's about 36, 37 years old as well. So if you're gonna do, you gotta do this. You gotta be fair here, man. If you're gonna give Wilder no credit for beating Ortiz up to Severn, then you cannot give AJ no credit for beating Vlad and Takam. You can't give him no credit for that if you're going to do that. No evidence of Ortiz having an iron chin. Same with Severn. The definition of iron chin was Wilder Hopkins. Well, okay, gangster. Did you look at the Severn's fight, the first Wilder Severn fight? Did Severn get knocked down in that fight? I mean, other than the second round bell that saved him from the knockdown, but Severn went 12 rounds against Wilder and took all his biggest right shots, and Severn got sent to the hospital after that fight. Did you see that fight? Because Severn took Wilder to the distance. He has an iron chin. He took Wilder's best shots. I don't get what you're saying. I really don't get it. Duhop is okay, man. All right. Let me see. Yuha Duhop got knocked out how many times in his career? Maybe once. Wilder was the only guy that stopped him, or actually other than before the Povetkin fight. Let me see. Yeah, Povetkin and Wilder are the only two that stopped him. So Povetkin was on drugs when he knocked out Duhop. Any proof that Wilder was on drugs when he stopped him? Any proof of that? I mean, seriously. No, Duhop was out of it. He had a cut between his eye. He was taking too many shots. He was taking a beating, man. I mean, he was a stiff target for Wilder. Yes, he was able to pump that jab in Wilder's face, which puffed up his eye. I'll give him credit for that. But he was taking more of a beating than Wilder did. Let's be honest. Yeah, Severn was inactive for 2 years, but let's be realistic. Severn was put in the mandatory position after being, after beat a Derek Rossi, which some people felt, which he got put down early that fight, which wasn't even televised. Nobody wanted to see that rematch, okay? Wilder didn't even want to fight that guy, but he had to because it was a mandatory that had to be fulfilled. All right? So, yes, we all know that Severn was a fight we wanted to see. The rematch, obviously, because Wilder humiliated that guy in the first fight, which he does deserve credit for beating. But I get what you're saying, but at the same time, AJ beat inactive Vladimir Klitschko for 2 years coming off a loss. All right? So yeah, how would drugs improve power for Povetkin when his weight remained the same as usual? The same with his speed. 1 picogram, 8 ants of a fly, never been a human being. Well, first of all, drugs can enhance your power. It can increase your speed. It can increase your endurance. It can increase your cardiovascular conditioning. Like Povetkin, for example, who has had issues with cardiovascular conditioning over the years, and that's why he needed those enhancement drugs to improve that performance. And Povetkin, by the way, was not known as a knockout artist prior to him knocking out guys like Carlos Taco, who's never been stopped before in his career, other than the AJ fight, which is obviously a discrepancy of a stoppage, by the way. Marius Wack, those guys, whatnot. But the fact is that Povetkin's physique was improving dramatically. I mean, the guy had a very, very pudgy physique, but yet all of a sudden he was gaining muscular definition. His power was increasing, and the next, he was not losing stamina in fights. He had a lot of energy going into his later fights after the Marco Huck fight. So that was very unusual. That's why people were questioning Povetkin. Wait, what's going on here? How can the man increase his stamina just like that over one fight? How could he have power all of a sudden? So there was a lot of speculation there about Povetkin. Yes, with the Meldonian situation, and then the Osterring situation, which is very equivalent to anabolic steroids. So, yeah, he right there was on PEDs. Yes, he paid the crime. He did the time. He paid his fine. He served his ban. He's back. So we all can move on from that. Power is based on speed. He was always KO artist. His power is based on speed and technique. None of these have been changed. Well, his speed did change. His technique hasn't changed. I'll give you that. His weight did change. Look at his physique and look at his weight when he fought guys like Hasim Rahman, Chris Bird, and those guys, and Eddie Chambers. Look at his physique before those fights, and look at his physique after his Marco Huck fight. Look how he has changed from a cardiovascular standpoint. Yes, those drugs helped him. Okay, Meldonian did help him, which he admitted taking, but that time Meldonian was legal. It was legal. I'll give him that. But the fact is that he also got caught with Osterring. So that right there was an issue. Yeah, I know about that. The lab that got shut down due to a breach of protocol. I know that Kiwi, but they actually didn't get shut down. They actually were suspended. They had their accreditation revoked for a short amount of time, but it's got reinstated. That's a lab at UCLA. I'm very familiar with that lab. But anyhow, like I said, he's not really the same after that whole situation. But he's still a formidable opponent. I still want to see Wilder fight him. I really want to see it. Yeah, he looked way different fighting Christian Hammer. Yeah, he looked totally different. He didn't look good in that fight. Yes, he had a little bit of a layoff, but yeah. Okay, gangster, we're not talking about his physique versus David Price. We're talking about physique versus guys like Taco, his physique versus Marius Wack, his physique versus guys like Johan Duhaupas, his physique versus Mike Perez. Look at his muscular definition in those fights. And look at his definition now after he's no longer taking drugs like Osterring. It's changed. It's changed. Again, I still rate Povetkin highly, despite this whole ordeal with the drug testing controversy. Again, he's paid his due. I mean, he paid the crime. He did the time, as you want to call it. He served out his suspension. He's paid his fines, and there, he's back in the mix. We still have to, look at him as a formidable opponent, like we've all looked at Luis Ortiz as a formidable opponent, despite him being on anabolic steroids years ago. So we got to give Povetkin the same treatment as we did Ortiz. All right, do me a favor, gangster. Look at his muscular definition, those fights compared to his fights now, his fights before those fights between Perez, Taco, and so forth. I mean, come on, man. I know you're trying to defend Povetkin here, and rightfully so, but it is what it is. He's had some changes when he was on those drugs. He had a dramatic change in performance. It increased it. And ever since he's no longer on those drugs, it's kind of declined a bit. So Kiwi says that. So now Wilder's going to deliver that contract. Is here saying that is her going to say you took too long? Is he going to be pushing the point for a couple weeks? I hope not, man. But Kiwi. But here's my thing. I think that the contract is going to stipulate that Wilder and Joshua is going to have interim fights before they fight at a later date. I think that's what it stipulates, in my opinion. And I really believe that Deontay Wilder might be fighting Alexander Povetkin. And the reason why I say that is because neither Povetkin and Wilder's team have confirmed that they're going to fight. It's been nearly almost 3 weeks now, 2 weeks now, and they haven't even announced the date yet for a fight. What's taking so long? Wilder hasn't even announced his date with Dominic Brazil, so we don't know what's going on here. So I believe that Wilder maybe fight Povetkin because, hey, Povetkin got more to gain in that fight. I mean, he could gain 3 belts, but hey, he can fight Wilder too by getting a WBC belt. Okay? I really believe that Povetkin and Wilder fight may happen. I'm crossing my – I hope it does happen, to be honest with you. I really want to see that fight. I think that fight is long overdue, and I think it should happen. I think it should happen. He says, yeah, I got that feeling too. Likely February fight. Yeah, it's going to happen next year. But I really think Povetkin versus Wilder is going to happen next. I really believe it. I really believe it. Yes, Povetkin's not the mandatory, but that fight and that, which means that fight could be held in any territory that Wilder wants. So Povetkin was also fat against Hasim Rahman. Take a look at that fight. He was pudgy in that fight. Take a look at that fight. He was pudgy in that one. Hey, Chris Bird. Take a look at those 3 fights. Let's see. It sounds like something realistic. Heck, Parker and White happened out of nowhere. Yeah, I agree, Texas. I agree. Just similar to how the Wilder Ortiz fight happened out of nowhere. No one expected that fight to happen anytime soon. That fight just got announced to happen out of nowhere back in late November 2017 before, it got pushed back to March of this year. So, yeah, I have a feeling that could happen. I really believe it. Wilder versus Povetkin. I definitely want to see that fight. I think that fight's going to happen next. I really believe it. I really believe it. Oh, okay. Let me see if Kiwi says that not fair on us fans hanging on out in this cold and keeping it us expecting of a Wilder versus Joshua next. Frustrating. I know, Kiwi. I know it. I voiced my frustration about this too. The thing I have to say about this is that I find it bizarre that a fight at this magnitude is being negotiated publicly like this is very strange. I find that very odd, to be honest with you. That's something that's taking negotiating to a whole new level because, yes, fights were kind of negotiated through social media to some extent, but not to this extreme. Not to this extreme that's been going on between Wilder and Joshua, or Joshua Wilder, however you want to call it. But I think based off what's going on, given the fact I have to repeat myself, that both Wilder and Povetkin Wilder and Joshua hasn't even announced their upcoming fights yet. It's been nearly almost 3 months, about 3 months now, since they fought their last opponents. And they haven't even announced who they're going to fight next. I really believe that this fight between Wilder and Povetkin is going to happen next. And AJ is going to fight some other voluntary somewhere. I'm not sure who it's going to be. Could be Big Baby Miller. I think so. I know the Miller and the Poulet fight got ordered, and Epic Boxing or Epic Entertainment won that purse bid. So that doesn't mean that Big Baby Miller doesn't have to take that fight. So he could pull out of that and take the AJ fight as a voluntary. So that's probably what's going on. That's probably what's going on. Gangster. So why wasn't he pudgier against David Price? I mean, was he on drugs on that as well? Look, man. Okay, Povetkin probably after he came back, he found a way to stay and keep himself in shape, but he definitely doesn't have the same definition like he did in his previous fights, like against the Carlos Tacos and the Mike Perez's and the who else I mentioned, and Yohan Duhaupas. There's a difference. Take a look at it. Take a look at the physiques and compare those fights, man. I'm just saying, take a look at it. Kiwi says that interesting. The time Wilder will take to get a contract return is more than the Parker White fight took to get made altogether. Yeah, I find that bizarre too. I really find that bizarre, Kiwi. I really bizarre. You know, I hate to say this, man. I criticize Wilder and I criticize Joshua. I've criticized them equally, but I really think, based off what I've been hearing, that Barry Hearn, Teddy Atlas, and Roy Jones Jr. have all came out publicly and said that we don't think it's wise for AJ to take this fight between Wilder. We don't think it's wise for AJ to fight Wilder right now. He's going to have to wait longer to make that fight happen. And based on what's going on, I think they're waiting for Wilder to slow down. I think they're trying to drag out this process a bit longer. So that's why they're saying, okay, we'll meet at the later date, but you got to do these 2 fights. So he'll agree to it. But I think, or Wilder, that is, I think he will. But I think to me, in my opinion, they're waiting for him to slow down a bit. That's probably what they're doing based off what's going on. Now, AJ believes he can beat Wilder right now. I think he believes it. But I don't think his management team or the other outside factors don't believe it. I don't think they do. I think that's just my take on what I've been observing. And given the fact that Wilder Joshua has not announced their next fights, upcoming fights yet, I think that Povetkin fight's going to happen between Wilder and Povetkin. It's going to happen out of nowhere. I have a feeling. Let me see. If Wilder's not traveling to Russia, then Povetkin versus Wilder would never happen. No. Povetkin is not the mandatory, so if Povetkin wants to fight Wilder, if he believes he can beat him, then he would have no problem going to the USA to fight Wilder. I mean, did Povetkin have no problem going to the UK and fight David Price? He knew he could beat David Price. He knew he could knock him out. So if Alexander Povetkin believes that, then he would have no problem going to the USA to fight Wilder. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Let's see. If Big Baby Miller, Kiwi says, pulls out, and he'll be forced to drop for the IBF rankings, though. Just like White did, so Joshua cannot be sanctioned IBF fight. Well, that's a good point, Kiwi, but you also have to also take into account that Big Baby Miller is also ranked by the WBA. So if he gets dropped by the IBF, that's not going to hurt him because the WBA can still sanction him to fight Big Baby Miller because that's a WBA sanctioned fight. So that could happen. Povetkin simply worked on more cardio after the Vlad fight. It's why he had the same physique against Price and Taco. Well, if you notice, after he's no longer on the Osterine or Meldonia, Povetkin has gassed out against the likes of Andre Radenko and Christian Hammer, which he went to distance against both of those fighters. He gassed out. So given the fact that he's gassed out, you can tell that if you look at the Vlad fight, he still had a lot of energy despite that he's been wrestling. He was been thrown across the ring. Has a back lean against him. He's been he's been armed. He's been in the vice grip lock against Klitschko and whatnot. So there's a major difference in his cardiovascular condition when he's no longer on Meldonian. So he did gas out in those 2 comeback fights. So let's see what we got here. Povetkin isn't fight Wilder for the WBC. He's only fighting Joshua out of Russia. Well, we may never know, but the fact is that fight hasn't been announced yet. Ryan Bisky had threatened to go to a purse bid 3 weeks, almost a month ago. I should say a month ago. I said 3 weeks ago. A month ago, he threatened to take it to the purse bid. We haven't heard anything, so something is going on there. I have a hunch that Povetkin and Joshua fight's not going to happen. I think it's going to be Wilder versus Povetkin. I really believe that's what's going to happen because nobody's saying anything on the Povetkin side. Nobody's saying anything on the Brazil side. So the only people that's talking right now on the heavyweight side when it comes to the most anticipated heavyweight fights is Joshua and Wilder. That's the only people that's been talking. So my theory is that they're both negotiating on which fighter is going to take what interim fight in between. I think that's what's happening right now. They're going to meet next year, but they're probably arguing on who should fight who and this, that, and the third. I think that's what's happening. I think Wilder's going to agree to interim fights which I don't think he has no problem with. And I think he's going to have no problem fighting Povetkin. I think that's the fight that's going to be announced. I have a feeling because this is going to happen out of nowhere. I really believe it. Let me see. The Texas says this fight is going to happen overall after the whole Canelo Triple G saga ends in September, which I hope. Whether it would be in November or next year, AJ Wilder will happen after, I believe, at least. It will happen one way or the other. Correct, Dan. It's interesting how Big Baby has been quiet lately. Never known him to be so quiet. And that's a good point. He may know something that we don't know. Eddie has made it sound like that they made a deal with Povetkin's team, so who knows how full of shit he is at times, though. Never trust a promoter. Yeah, I know. He said they made a deal, but it's been nearly a month now. They haven't even announced anything. So what is going on there? And Povetkin's team haven't even said anything either. And Andre Rembinski is a very, very vocal individual, so we don't know what's going on. So cross my fingers on this. I think this was going to happen. I really believe it. I really believe it. I hope Wilder and Povetkin happens. I'd rather see that fight rather than AJ versus Povetkin. I think that's going to be a more exciting fight. And it's a fight that's long overdue. I know they have the court case that need to be settled out between the two camps, but eventually I think that case is going to be dropped. I really believe it. They're going to settle it in court, and they're going to just handle it in the ring. I really believe it. So, yeah. Well, let me see. He did. Look at his fights against Radenko. He kind of lost some steam in that fight. He lost some steam against Christian Hammer. Let me see. Kiwi says, do you think Wilder would give Povetkin a shot considering the court scuffle? Yeah. I touch upon that, Kiwi. I think the case is going to be dropped where both sides are going to reach to a settlement. And then once that's done, and then they're going to announce the fight. I think that's what's going to happen because this is the same similar situation where the Wilder Brazil situation came about when both fighters had to, Brazil took Wilder to court over assault. That case got settled. So now there's talks about them fighting each other. So it could be the same scenario. Wilder didn't log that appeal in, did he? For what I've been hearing, Kiwi, I heard two sides. I heard they were going to appeal. They filed it, but I heard they didn't file it. So we don't know. I don't know what's going on. I did hear they filed it, but I heard they didn't file it. But even if they did file the appeal, then they could still rescind it. They can say, you know what? We'll rescind our appeal. We'll just settle the case. We'll have a settlement. So both Wilder's attorneys and Povetkin's attorneys can get together. They can reach a settlement from there. And they can settle out in the federal courts in New York. So, yeah. So even if the appeal was filed, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stop a settlement from happening. Shit fight. It's a fight. Boxers get tired. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it is what it is. Boxers lose steam. But you didn't find it odd that Povetkin didn't lose any steam against Vladimir Klitschko? You really didn't find that odd? Let's see. Well, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I had a great conversation with you guys in here as always. Hey, shout out to you, Kiwi, Gangsta. Good conversation, even though we have a disagreement on the Povetkin situation. But you're always welcome to my hangout chat, bro. Shout out to you guys, Black Latin Seas, the Texan, Ross Plot, Derek Williams. Shout out to you, brother. So other than that, guys, I am out of this. Peace.